All right, so I want to talk just a little bit about the generators that we use for some events and just about generators in general. And all I'm talking about is the generators that I use. So it's not really a comprehensive video covering it, generators, just because there's too many variables involved with generator power, what you're using the generators for, generator fuel. This is a 10,000 watt generator, 10,000 watts continuous. It has a 13,000 watt surge on it. Like most generators, this one has several different receptacles in it that allows us access to a certain amount of power that the generator can provide. Now, many years ago, I did start out with a 5,000 watt generator, which the 5,000 watt generator I did use for some shows. The generator did really well with providing enough power to do a vocal only type of PA. Now, this generator was fairly loud and it actually weighed quite a bit. Okay, here, this is the 5,000 watt generator and it's sitting behind something like a trash wall. But just beyond this trash wall is the event that I was providing the PA for. As I said, these generators are very loud and they need to be kept out of the way so they just don't cause issues with just generalized noise being too loud. And the generator lived on this cart its entire time. And this is part of the reason why I stopped using a generator at events, because of its transportation needs. And the generator didn't have its own wheel kit, so that's why it's sitting on a cart. It lived on the cart its whole life. But that also caused a lot of problems with taking up space in the cargo van. So this 5,000 watt generator did really well with providing enough power for the vocal PA and also some background music. Okay, here it's the same generator. It's set up for they had a dog walk set up. And the generator sat left of this tent here. It was sitting about 30 feet away. But the trick is to point the muffler away from the crowd. It greatly reduces the amount of noise. In general, a lot of them will have, as I said before, they'll have different types of receptacles on here. And this type of receptacle, this is a 20 amp, 120 volt receptacle. Same thing over here. 120 volts, 20 amps. These are on their own separate circuits, as you can tell from the line that sort of surrounds it, and it's got its own circuit breaker on them. This one's for this one is for that one. And a lot of generators are set up this way, sort of to show you which circuit, which receptacle sitting in its own circuit. And this one here, if we look at 20 amps, now in the US, we run a lot of stuff off of 120 volts. So if we take this 120 volts, just on this circuit alone, 120 volts times the 20 amps, we come up with 2,400 watts. So that's 2,400 watts here and 2,400 watts over here. Now over here, this type of connector, this is a 30 amp service at 120 volts. And if we take the 30 amps times the 120 volts, we get 3,600 watts available on this circuit. So this type of receptacle is a little bit different. It's got 3 blades and it's a twist lock. So if you have a device that requires a 30 amp service at 120 volts, so the type of plug is going to be like this. This will fit right into here. All right, so how do we use 120 volt 30 amp service? Well, back on this kind of a plug-in, we would use this type. It would connect in here, we'll lock it into place, and then the other end will have these types of ends on them. This is a 15 amp and 15 amp. So as long as we can maintain the wattage below the rated output for this receptacle, for this breaker, of 3,600 watts, we can put 2 devices on here. Basically, this would be 15 amps per side. All right, so the next receptacle, which is fairly common on generators, is the 120 240 volt service. This one is a 30 amp service. Now the 5,000 watt generator that I had a 120 240 volt on it, but it was only a 20 amp service, which was restrictive because the generator could only put out 5,000 watts. And as I said, not every generator is going to have all of these types of connections. The more power you have, the more availability to different types of receptacles you're going to get. All right, so on the 120 240, this is a 4-blade type of connection, and this is what these type of connectors are for. All right, just like the 30 amp one, this is a locking connector. And on the other end of it, for this particular one, we have it's called a CS connector. And this is what we can put into what is called a spider box, or a portable PDU unit. So our 120 240 volt 30 amp service, if we do the math on this, we come up with 7,200 watts is available on this receptacle. And if you remember, this one was 3,600 watts. This one was 2,400, and it's the same with this one. So as we're going to the right, I'm able to get more power out of it. So this one, as I said, is 7,200 watts. Okay, the last receptacle on this is 120 240 volt, and this is a 50 amp service receptacle. Now, for this particular receptacle, they're showing that it is restricted to 41.7 amps. So if we take our 240 volts times our 41.7 amp breaker, we come up with a 10,000 watts. This is what the whole generator can produce continuously. So even though it's a 50 amp style receptacle, the breaker is what's controlling the wattage coming out of the generator. And these types of, let me get this here, these types of connectors require these types of plugs. Now, on the other end, just like on this one here, on the other end, we've got what's called a CS connector. And this is what we use to plug directly into a PDU. And now this particular cord is what we use when we do large shows. And this end here goes into our own PDU. It's a 50 amp 120 240 volt service. And we can run our entire PA just from one connection. And this connection here is what I use along with this cord. This is what I use to power my house with. As I said, this is my personal generator. I would never use it for a show just simply because it's just way too noisy and is extremely heavy to move around. All right, so for the larger shows that we do, especially outdoor shows, it does require us to use these kinds of cables to get power. And if they have portable power, they need to be using diesel generators. Diesel generators, they are extremely quiet, a lot quieter than the gas-powered generators. But I will say this, on the gas-powered inverters, those inverters are actually very quiet for a gas-powered generator, but they are still, in my opinion, too loud to be used for some types of events. So here's an event that we did where they had a 7,000 watt inverter. Now, it's gas powered. I mean, it was quiet, but you could still hear it running. And for this particular event, we were using 2 of the 20 amp circuits. And so that gave us 2,400 watts per circuit, so almost 5,000 watts of power. So one circuit was used for all the lighting, the front of house console, front of house tops, band amplifications, and the other circuit was used for the subwoofer amp. The generator did great, but we could still hear it running, but it was not anywhere as bad as what a standard gasoline generator would sound like. Before I go any further, I wanted to mention that you're not going to get your 10,000 watts using my generator here as an example. I'm not going to get 10,000 watts out of any of these receptacles except for the last one. The spider boxes, a lot of them come with cords on them, so we just would attach it into here, or we would attach them into here, and then it runs out into its own little power distribution box, and then we can connect amplifiers, anything that needs power, we just connect directly into their boxes. Diesel generators can produce really tens of thousands of watts of power. Some of them can be a few 100,000 watts of power and up. Okay, on this event, this is a 30,000 watt generator, and the organizers provided us with 2 240 volt 50 amp PDUs for us to use. Now we only needed 1 PDU for the event, which actually worked out pretty good. We were using more efficient amplification, which, by the way, amplifiers are a huge draw in current. So the organizers also provided the spider boxes, and they did a top-notch job making sure that there was enough power for the entire stage. They actually went over the top on making sure there was power. Said they were top-notch, great to work with. And for the generators, we don't provide generator power. So anytime that we're asked to do a big show, we'll meet with the organizers at the event location and we'll discuss power. And if they need portable power at a site, I will recommend them a couple of companies that they contact. Okay, here's a generator that was 56,000 watts. And this was for an outdoor festival, and this 56,000 watt generator was for our sound system. It was for bounce houses, all these big balloon figures and food kiosks. This was a fairly large event that probably covered about 2 acres, maybe 2.5 acres. Once again, just like all the other diesel generators, you cannot hear these things running. When I took this picture, I was probably standing 5 feet from it, and I could barely hear it running. All right, here's a generator that was at an NC State event that we were doing. It's a 20,000 watt generator, and once again, the generator company provided us with a breakout box, like a spider box, to connect all of our stuff into. This was more than enough power. We're at a high school set for some rock band type of event. And the generator in the back, you can see there in the back, was it was about 25 kW. And again, the rental company provided us with a PDU, a breakout box that had, I believe, 6 20 amp circuits on it, I believe, and they had a little 50 amp pass through on it. But I said this is more than enough power for this event. And the power cables that you see, they're all 12 gauge, which is more than enough. And there's actually a couple of 10 gauge sitting in there. And so some of you may be wondering, why is the generator sitting back so far? It was not because of noise. You could barely hear it running. But with the weight of that generator, they did not want to pull it out onto that asphalt area. They were afraid that the weight of the generator was going to cause indentations into the asphalt. I mean, these diesel generators are extremely heavy. All right, well, that's just a brief overview of the generator, my personal generator I use, and just a brief discussion of the diesel generators that we're able to connect to when doing events. All right, hope this helps.